story on GST if I have to say 5 years back. But today it is kind of settled. It's kind of everyone can say, okay, I understand now. Not much changes. And this is the common process for any new law to be evolved, right? Like if you have to take a small example that, okay, a newborn baby, now the child will keep growing. And after one stage, now the growth is restricted, so you don't need to buy, change the clothes. So the size is same. You only buy the same size, everything, right? So like that, now GST is settled. You don't have much issues. Now the biggest problem of this settlement is the understanding. Now, why do I say understanding as an issue? When GST came in, we all thought GST means this. But over the period, either we read the act multiple times, we faced the department understanding was something, circulars came in fact, some circulars overturned their own view, and comes the biggest issue is our accountants, our staff who has finalized, where are they? Vanished. Now they're there somewhere, right? They made a mistake. Now nothing wrong about them, but they filed returns, they prepared books, they did the accounting with their limited understanding. Working papers, they prepared, they maintained with their limited understanding. Now, today you may say that why was this done this way? But standing 5 years back, we didn't know that that was the way to do it, right? The biggest question that comes is, if we have made a mistake, now what does that mistake cost? Is it intentional? Is it going to give us penalty? Can I rectify it earlier? Now we all know the rectification final option would be GSTR 99C. So if something is missed out, you pay it through DRC03. Even while finalizing your annual return, something would get missed out. More or less, the outward related is kind of settled. And unless otherwise, there is a classification issue and rate change. Only GST 2.0 has made a substantial change when they moved 12% to either 5% or 18%. But till then, there were changes of rates that was happening. And very small set of clients had this issue of classification. Would it be classified into this HSN or other HSN? Right? In midst of all this, when an officer comes, knocks the door and comes in, he may say that, hey, look, I am from enforcement. Or you get one notice asking that, okay, what are you doing? If I see your return that there's something wrong, and we call it as AS70 10, saying that something is wrong in the returns. Okay. And a detailed version of it is audit. The department said that, look, I would like to visit your premises and look at all your records. Give me this information. Right? Or it could be, I'll sit at my desk, get all your papers. So either they may visit or they may call records to their desk. Now, between 61, 65, 67 and 70, don't worry about these section numbers. The lengthiest of the adjudication, assessment, scrutiny process is your 65. The expectation from the officer is that you have to verify a lot of things. A fundamental question and doubt that comes is, during the course of an audit, an officer has found something and he says, I want to tax this or I want to disallow this. Would that amount to suppression? Can he say that, okay, I have now made a discovery and it is going to become a suppression, and he will be considering under the 74, and both 73, 74 now the sunset clause has begun, so they will be dying soon? That's a question that you should be asking, you should be looking at. In today's session, Jagadeesh and Ashika are going to deal with what is audit under GST. What are the documents that you need to be ready with? What is the power of an officer to ask? Can he ask my personal bank account? I'm a director of the company. Officer is thinking that some of the sales is suppressed and I am routing into it. Can he go to that extent? Or can he ask me to reconcile with your books of accounts and 2B and give? Or I just give my 3B and give my books, he will do his reconciliation. So there could be various things that may come to your mind. If at all, I'm also putting some questions. So you better ask these questions to Ashika and Jagadeesh during the course of the discussion today. We are going to hear till around 5:30. We have two sessions to be covered. As usual, the first part we deal with GST. Approx 1 hour 45 minutes, 2 hours, we will be covering GST. Then on the technology side, we are now looking into cybersecurity. What is the readiness that you need to have? There's a DPDP Act that has come in, and you need to be aware of the penalties and what are the risks that are going to come. We are only going to have a little introduction to the cybersecurity today. With this note, I welcome Ashika and Jagadeesh. Over to you.
Yeah, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Let me share my screen. Yeah. Is my screen visible, sir?
Yes.
Yeah. Welcome you all to the 99th GST session. First of all, the agenda for today's session is divided into three segments. First, we'll discuss on pre-audit readiness. So in this segment, we'll discuss how to get ready as and when we receive the audit intimation, that is ADT 01, and what are all the data we need to prepare before the audit officer knocks your door. And the second segment is effective audit coordination. In this segment, we'll see how to handle the audit process and how to give a reply to the audit queries raised by the audit officer. And at the end, we'll see the post-audit compliance and closure. So in this, we'll see once we receive the final audit report, what needs to be done. That we'll see. At the end, we'll take up the Q&A session. So this is what we are going to discuss in today's session. So now starts with the, now we'll see the legal framework of GST law. So types of the audit. So under GST law, how many audits will be there? How many types of audit? If you see the first one, section 35, subsection 5. Earlier, this section is there. As per this section, every registered person is required to get the audit by the CA or CMA. But now this section is omitted from Finance Act 2021. This section is not there. So as of now, there will be only two types of audits. That is, one, the audit under section 65, and other one is audit under section 66. So usually we'll see the section 65. What is section 65 audit? It is the audit conducted by the department by the tax officer. Whereas coming to the section 66, it is also audit conducted by the department, but audit will be done by the CA, chartered accountant, or the cost accountant. These CA or CMA will be empaneled firm with the GSTN nominated by the commissioner. So, and when this 65 will be applicable and 66 will be applicable, we'll see. 66 will be applicable during the course of inquiry, investigation, or scrutiny if the AC or DC feels that it is more complex, where expert is required to conduct an audit. In that case, AC or DC recommend for a special audit. section 66. Then then this audit will be conducted by the CA or CMA. Again, just they will do the audit and give report to the AC or DC. They will issue audit report, not directly by the CA or CMA. But in today's session, our focus is more on only section 65 audit, that is audit by the department. So before moving further, we'll understand what audit means as per the GST law. GST law itself has defined what audit means. Audit means examination of records, returns, other documents furnished by the registered person. So that means they will verify only the records, returns, documents maintained or furnished by the registered person. Unlike the investigation, it relies more on the third-party information. But as per under GST law, audit means only examination of records, returns maintained by the registered person. So, what is the object of to do the audit? The objective is to verify whether the turnover declared is correct or not, whether there is any turnover on which tax has not paid or wrong tax has been paid, wrong tax rate has been applied, or claimed excess refund, or wrong claimed refund wrongly, or in case input coming to the input tax credit, if we claim ineligible input tax credit or wrong utilization of IT. So all that they will see. The main objective is to assess his compliance with the provisions of the Act or rules made thereunder. So if you see here under Section 2, subsection 13, the scope of the audit is not only limited to the records returns maintained under GST law, but also if you see here marked in the red color, under any other law. So audit officer is empowered to ask the records or documents which are not required to be maintained under GST law, but required to maintain under other allied laws. So from this, they got a power to ask any information which is, though it is not required to maintain under GST, but required to maintain under other allied laws. That we'll discuss in the later slide. So what information they may ask, all that we'll see in the later slides. So now first we'll see the audit process, how it will start, and at the end what it will, how it will end. See, so as and when the assessee is selected for the audit, audit intimation by form of ADT1 will be issued. This is an audit intimation saying that, see, taxpayer, you have been selected for an audit, you submitted documents. So after issuing ADT01 has to give at least 15 days time to submit the documents. Once it is issued, then whether the audit will be conducted desk audit or they will come to our premises, it is an audit officer discretion. They can do audit in their premises, or they can come to our premises and do the audit. Entirely this is under discretion. So how to know this, whether they will do audit in their place, I mean officer's place, or they will come to our place. If you see the ADT01, there they will specifically mention that, see, taxpayer, you need to submit so and so documents to our office within this date, like that they will mention, if they want to conduct the audit at their premises. If they want to come to our premises, they will mention that, see, we are coming on this date, please arrange the transportation, like that they will mention in the ADT01. So after receiving ADT01, what we need to do? We need to submit the document. In the ADT1 itself, they will mention what are all the documents or information required. They will give the annex. So to that annex, we need to submit the documents. So after giving our submissions, replies, explanation, they will give the audit observation based on our explanation and submissions. So to that, this audit observation is nothing but the spot memo or discrepancy notice. Before giving the final audit report, this is the observations by the department. So to this, we need to give the reply to the observations. If we can, so finally, after giving our reply to the spot memo or discrepancy notice, finally they will issue the final audit report. So this final audit report should have his observation and our submissions or explanations and his final conclusion on the observation. So like this, the audit report should be there. If any observation got concluded, there will not be any proceedings further. If still there are any unresolved issues or observations, then the proceedings will be initiated under Section 73 or 74 by way of issuing show cause notice under DRC 01. And before issuing this DRC 01, they may issue DRC 01A, that is a pre-consultative show cause notice. So this is how the adjudication proceeding starts from issuing DRC 01. So this is how the audit process turns to adjudication proceedings. So what is the time limit for completion of audit? Generally, audit must be completed within 3 months from commencement. Okay. Further, this can be extended further 6 months for reasons to be recorded in writing. So what does it mean by commencement? Whether as and when ADT1 issue, can we say that it is a commencement? No, the answer is no. Commencement of audit means what are all the data or information they asked us to submit to their office. Unless otherwise we submit each and every data or information what they called us, the audit cannot be called as a commencement. Like if you see here, commencement of audits shall mean the date on which the records and other documents called for by the tax authorities are made available by the registered person. So unless you submit, let's say if you have not submitted one document, they have asked 100 documents, 99 documents you have submitted, but you failed to submit one document, then your clock of the 3 months will not start ticking. Okay, unless otherwise you submit all the 100% document, then only that clock will start tick. Okay, so commencement of audit, you be careful with the commencement of audit. So it is always recommended to submit each and every information what they ask in the ADT 01 and take the acknowledgement from them. See, we have submitted all these documents and give the acknowledgement that we have submitted this information. So later, department may claim that the taxpayer had not cooperated or not submitted documents. This acknowledgement will serve as an evidence in the later stages of adjudication. And also, you can, if the audit proceedings drag beyond statutory period, that is 3 months or extended 6 months, if it is exceeded, you can challenge the later proceeding, subsequent proceeding based on time bar. And many high courts have upheld that timeline provisions are mandatory. They have to complete the audit within the 3 months or 6 months from the date of commencement. If they have not completed the audit itself is an they have treated audit itself as an invalid. So if audit is invalid, based on audit, if any show cause notice is issued, that show cause notice is, will also be treated as an invalid. So you can use this strategy as a defense in the later stages of adjudication proceedings. So where can be audit conducted? Already we have discussed it's completely an audit officer discretion whether it can be conducted at an office of the tax authorities or place of business. Here again, place of business doesn't mean only the principal place of business. It can be any. We'll see the place of business. In the section 65 subsection 2, it says not just a principal place of business. Place of business includes a place from where the business is ordinarily carried out. Okay, it includes a warehouse, godown, or any other place where the taxable person stores his goods. Let's say in case of e-commerce operator, he stores all his goods with the e-commerce vendor, like a Flipkart warehouse. In that warehouse, he will keep his goods. Even they can go there and do the audit. And the transporter godown is also a place of business and a place where taxable person is engaged in business through an agent. So if he stores goods at his agent place, even that place also they can go and audit. So the place of audit can be anything. So who can audit? Any person can audit? The answer is no. Section 65 subsection 1 clearly stated that only the commissioner or any officer authorized by him by way of general order or specific order can only do an audit. And again, this audit can be done only for the registered persons. Let's say if I am an unregistered party, can the department initiate audit under section 65? Again, the answer is no. They for unregistered person, there is a separate section called Section 163, Assessment of Unregistered Persons. They will use that section. Only this Section 65 can be applied only on the registered person. And again, the proper officer, after concluding of audit under Section 65, the proper officer has to communicate his finding to the taxpayer within 30 days of conclusion of audit. So, who is the proper officer here? That we'll see in the later slide. Whether the proper office in the beginning will say that the officer ordered by the commissioner. Whether proper officer and ordered officer is the same? No. Proper officer technically different from the ordered officer. How? The difference, and we'll see in the next slide. So, who is the proper officer here? If you see, just a second. Yeah. If you see the Section 65, subsection 6, proper officer is required to give the final audit report. And Circular 3/2017 says that proper officer under Section 65, subsection 6 is a person above the level of AC or DC. So, who is the proper officer to issue the audit report here? Assistant Commissioner or Deputy Commissioner or above his ranking, like Joint Commissioner, Additional Commissioner, Commissioner, Principal Commissioner. Anyone can issue the audit report. So, from this, we understand that Superintendent is a level lower than AC or DC. So, Superintendent cannot issue the final audit report. Okay. Whether the Commissioner can authorize, Superintendent can do the audit, but Superintendent cannot issue the final audit report. Hope you understand. If Superintendent is ordered by the Commissioner to do the audit, he conduct the audit. As per Section 65(6), he is not the proper officer to issue the final audit report. So, in that case, the Superintendent has to communicate his findings and discuss the audit report with the AC or DC. And concerned AC or DC has to issue the final audit report. So, he can do the audit, but he cannot issue the final audit report. That's it. If this strategy can be used in the adjudication proceedings, go back and see if any proceedings pending, adjudication proceedings pending because of the audit report issued by the Superintendent. In that case, you can challenge the audit report itself. You can quash the audit report and the subsequent adjudication proceedings. Okay. So, after issuing this audit report by ACDC, again, the Superintendent can adjudicate. But to issue the audit report, Superintendent don't have any power. Hope you got my point. So, yes. Now, coming to the submission strategy. In before slide, we discussed that audit commencement will not happen unless you have provided the 100% data as requested by the department. So, it is always recommended to submit documents with a detailed covering letter. What are all the information requested in the ADT 01 and what are all the information you are submitting now, with the index for every document, and give the reference to the ADT 01. So, like they asked 100 documents. So, I have given this document, this document, this document. So, if any document or information which is not applicable to you, in that case, you provide in detail, this is not applicable to me because of so and so. Give the detailed explanation. Let's take an example. You are into the service industry, but they ask the cost audit report. Just you mentioned that cost audit report is not applicable to us as we are into the service industry. Like that, you mentioned that. Okay, because never let silence be interpreted as a non-cooperation. Okay, communicate proactively about any in a non-applicability. Okay, this creates an audit trail. Later, the audit officer claims that taxpayer is non-cooperating or not provided any document. This will protect you from claims of non-cooperation. Still, if you have failed to submit some information, right now you don't have that information, you need some additional time, communicate it clearly to the officer and also commit to it timeline. but ensure that all the information, whatever the department has asked you, you submit the 100% data to the department and take the acknowledgement from them. And now see on what basis audit will be picked up, whether it is on random basis or whether there will be any technical analysis like that. How they will select, we'll see. So selection for an audit is not a random. Okay, it is a data-driven, risk-based selection based on data based on risk-based selection. It will pick the or pick for an audit. If you see the risk-based selection, if there is any erratic data behavior like high ITC claims and significant mismatches between your 1-3B refund, unusual refund claims or spikes, and unusual transaction pattern like settled trading and paying output tax liability using only the input tax credit, not through cash ledger, and all that things. There are various parameters set up nowadays. Even GST and has equipped with systems that can track all your data. And also GST has a separate wing called DGARM. It is a Director General of Analytics and Risk Management. It's an analytical wing of GSTN. It assigns a score to each taxpayer based on sophisticated data analytics. Okay, so there will be a lot of parameters. Based on that, they will assign you the score. Based on that score, there will be a chance of getting picked for an audit. Along with this, there is also manual selection. Commissioner, at his discretion, can select manually based on the specific intelligence, based on his intelligence or industry trends or sector-specific campaigns. Like you don't want to investigate or audit the real estate developers. So in the real estate in the real estate industry, they will pick the top 5 to 10 clients and issue the ADT01. There may be a chance of this manual selection also, but mostly audit will get picked by the risk-based selection only. So do you want to add anything, sir? Okay. Okay. So in these are various parameters based on which audit will get selected. If you see the risk analysis part, size of the taxpayer turnover. Mostly, if your turnover is based on size of the based on size of the taxpayer's turnover and change in taxpayer turnover from previous year. If there is a turnover fluctuation from the previous year to current year, there may be a chance of getting selected for an audit. And higher instance of supplies without issuance of e-way bill. You are supplying goods but not issuing any e-way bill. This is also one parameter they may set to get selected for an audit. And high variance in ITC between 3B and 2A. If you are claiming excess ITC, then what is reflecting in your 2B, and that is also case of selecting for an audit. And taxpayer who do not file periodical return but issue e-way bills. He continuously raising e-way bills and generating e-invoice but not filing his return. And size of the taxpayer's refund, and he continuously claiming refund and not paying tax in cash. He is utilizing only the credit. And taxpayer who requested waiver or in case of IB insolvency and all that cases, that also may be a chance of getting selected for an audit. And ratio analysis, it is based on net profit ratio, gross profit ratio. There are various ratio. Based on these ratios also they may pick for an audit. And trend analysis, like I discussed in the previous slide, erratic data behavior, sudden spike in turnover or sudden dip in turnover or sudden rise in your input tax credit without having e-way bill. Even that may also case for in the case for an audit. And already discussed the cash versus ITC utilization. If you are paying your liability, output tax liability only by using the input tax rate, then also maybe a chance of getting selected for an audit. These are the various parameters Just a second. Yes. So other factors, economic indicators and third-party information from tax. Let's take an example that if income tax has conducted and such, they have found undisclosed income. There may be a chance that income tax authorities inform to GST authorities saying that, see, in our search, this much of amount we have found. You also, they will exchange information to the GST. So based on that information also, they may select you for an audit and compare it to study intra-company and based on industry ratio. So this industry is paying this much of tax for this turnover, but this taxpayer is paying only this much. That may also be the chance for getting selected for an audit and other relevant sources of data. So these are the various parameters set by the GSTN for risk to do the risk-based data analysis and get pick the taxpayers for an audit. So what are the general records called during audits? So yes. So what are the general records that may be called during the audits? If you see here, before going on to what are all the records they may call, we'll see what are all the documents that required to maintain under GST law. So section 35 has prescribed what are all the documents which need to be maintained under GST law. If you see, the registered person shall keep and maintain production. Registered person shall keep and maintain production or manufacture of goods and inward and outward supply of goods are both services are both and stock of goods and input tax credit availed, that is input tax registered and output tax payable and output tax ledger and such other particulars as may prescribed. Like in case of job work, the job work register has to maintain only which is related to GST. Only these records which needs to be maintained under section 35. But if you see the audit, they will ask beyond this, which are not required to be maintained under section 35. Whether the officer is having power to call the other information which is not required to maintain under GST law, the answer is yes. Just before we see that section 2 subsection 13 has given power to the officer to examine the records returns which are required to maintain under allied laws, under any other law. So with the help of this provision, they can ask any information which we need to maintain as per the applicable law for the time being in force. So based on this, that's the reason they will ask for the cost audit report and income tax report and 3CB, CD, tax audit report and other data which we need to submit to the various authorities like SEZ and all that things. So they can ask any record or document which we need to maintain under any law which is applicable to us. Hope it is clear. So they are not restricted for asking data only which is we need to require to maintain under GST law. They can ask for anything. That's the reason the audit under section 65 is exhaustive. So next to that, now we'll see the common issues. What are all the common issues? Once the audit is started, commenced under section 65, the main objective of an officer, audit officer, is to identify whether there is any leakage of revenue as far as outward is concerned. So if there is a variance between, let's say, your books of account is showing the turnover X and your GST turnover is showing Y. So before the audit officer asks the difference between the X and Y, you need to be prepared with the beta. So if you please don't wait till the officer identify it. So as it is an yeah. So if you wait till he identified that it will be an observation. If you are ready with the reconciliation, upfront reconciliation, then it will be in compliance. So always be ready with the reconciliations. These are all the various outward issues. Now we'll see what are all the data or reconciliation we need to keep ready before the audit officer knocks your door or before he has. So uh, accounted income versus GST turnover. It is always while filing your GST 9 itself, you might have be ready with this turnover. And coming next to that, any other adjustment reported under GSTR 9C. We have seen many cases that in GSTR 9C, we need to match the turnover as per your books of accounts to the turnover as per your GSTR 9. If you get any difference between your book turnover and the GST turnover, simply many are putting the difference figure in the table 5O. That is any other adjustment. So we have seen many cases that uh, audit officer is directly jumping to the table 5O and asking reasons for that. You be ready with the breakup and reason for that figure which is reported in the table 5O. Don't simply put figure in the table 5O. And so it is if you put any figure in table 5O, you are inviting yourself uh, to, to to the audit officer to explore these things. So unnecessarily don't put figure in the table 5O. And exempt, if you claim any exemption on your outward supply, so you be ready with under which notification, under which serial number you're claiming that exemption, you keep it ready before the audit officer asks. The same case with the non-GST supply. If you are treating any supply as a non-GST supply, you maintain a proper documentation. If you can also take the declaration from the recipient and also to substantiate your claim that it is an exempted or non-GST supply. And frequent amendment in GST rates continuously. It is always recommend to get your books of account with the third party frequently. I mean, at least once in a year or twice in a year, so that you may not be in regular or practice of tracking change in GST rates. We always recommend to get your books of accounts reviewed by the third party GST experts and credit note issued. So by way of issuing credit notes, you will reduce your output tax liability. So if you see the section 15.3b, it requires that if you give any discount, unless your recipient has not reduced his input tax credit, you cannot get that benefit. So ensure that your recipient has reduced his input tax credit, then only you can get the benefit of reducing your output tax liability. So all and coming to the other income, no one will give much attention to the other income. Ensure that whether any tax GST has to be paid on other income or not. If not, you uh, uh, check for the GST tax liability and related party transactions. If there are any transaction happening between related party, ensure that the correct tax has been paid, because as per the schedule 1, even if any transaction happen between the related party, though there is no consideration, that has to be that will be treated as a supply. So you please check whether tax has been paid on the related party transactions or not. And coming to the corporate guarantees also, if there is any corporate guarantee has given to your subsidiaries or also, ensure that you have paid the tax GST on that. Coming to the SEZ supply endorsement, this is the uh, issue many suppliers are facing this issue from the department, because earlier mere supply to SEZ is a zero rated supply as per section 16, but with effective from 1st October 2023, section 16 of IGST Act has amended. They have inserted the word called for authorized operations. Unless you prove that your supply to SEZ is used for the authorized operations, you cannot get the benefit of zero rated supply. So if you have earlier mere supply to SEZ is an you can get the zero rated benefit. But now from 1st October 2023 onward, you have to get the endorsement, each invoice where that these goods, whatever the goods you supply, have consumed for the authorized operation. That certification you have to get from the authorized officer or the specified officer. Though it is the prospect amendment that is from the 110/2023, but the audit officer are applying this provision from the retrospective, that is from the implementation of GST. They are asking endorsement from the 1st July 2017 onwards. If we don't give those endorsements saying that these goods or services are consumed only for the um, audit operation, then they are denying the benefit of zero rated supply. So you can differ. Even some high courts are also upheld that even for the previous period, you need to get the endorsement certificate like that. They have given judgments also. So if any endorsements not received from the SCZ unit, you please get it and kept it ready before the audit commences. And advance from customer. We know that if any advance received for service, we need to pay the GST. But we have seen that many taxpayers are not paying GST on advances received. And again, mismatch between GST R1 and e-way bill. And also, it is recommended to maintain the reconciliation between R1 in your e-way bill and also e-invoice. That is also recently they are asking for this reconciliation with the e-invoice also. And if there are any sale of fixed assets, that also you cross check whether the correct tax has been applied or not, whether tax has been paid or not, and also the cross search. In case of cross search, you have paid the tax or not, because let's say your head office is giving HR services to you. In that case, the head office has to cross search the branch office whether it is happening or not. You cross check. The audit officers are focusing mainly on the issues which are related, which are pertaining to the outward part.
Jagdish,
Yes.
go back to the previous slide. Now, whatever Jagdish has covered, definitely not an exhaustive list, but it is something you should definitely start, consider, and keep this as a basis. Like I said, outward is not much challenging, but there are very slight nitty-gritties in it. Like starting with that accounted income versus GST turnover. I have noticed many people pay tax on advances, but they don't report properly in GSTR1 table 11. Advance collected, advance adjusted. So how will department be able to handle it? Or when you are doing exempt and non-GST supply, it's very much important that you fulfill all the entries in notification 2 or the old 12. The important aspect is how will that HSN fits in. You have to be even more careful when you're claiming exemption. And credit note, especially, Jagdish clearly said the other person has to reduce the ITC. But for him to reduce the ITC, you should report it in GSTR1. I noticed GSTR1 people miss it, but in 3B they reduce it. They have a valid credit note. That's another issue. And when it comes to the related party transactions, how we do a transfer pricing audit at an arm's length, Rule 28, which gives the related party adjustments, the validations, or when you go to Rule 30, cost plus 10%, you ensure that there is a necessary margin. People always say that, hey, look, okay, fine, whatever is the value in the invoice, that is fine. Even if I do with 1% margin, that is fine. But there is another condition to it. The other person should have a 100% input tax credit. It cannot be if the other person do not have that input tax credit, neither your circular 120, 199 or rule 28 will come to your rescue. This is very important. SEZ supply, as Jagdish mentioned, the endorsements is what they are looking for. If you have an earlier case which has not been there, you can still fight. You need to prove a post facto event that this happens. Because relying by Article 265, the no one can tax what they do not have power. If you can establish that it is supplied to SEZ, there is a procedural violation. Principles of natural justice can guard you. Definitely, you will not get relief by the commissioner, but either the tribunal, high court, you get the relief. So, but you have to keep your case alive for it. Yeah. The important point in this is the credit in the expenses side. That's something people don't watch for. That's what department would look at when they're asking you the trial balance, opening, debits, credits, closing. They will carefully watch what are the credits in the expense side of it. You got to take a special look into it. Yeah. And the minor reconciliation between B2B, B2C, 12%, 18%, that's all something has to be done. But still, you need to assess what is your liability for the year. That's very important. Yeah. So this is the fundamental basic that you need to know what will be outward related liability for the year. And these are some of the exceptions which Jagdish has brought up. Yeah. Any questions to anyone so far at this point till now? Any questions you have? Because there's been little silence, and this being a virtual session, we need to ensure that everyone are on the same page. Perfect. We can continue. Yes, Jagdish.
Yes. So this is not the exhaustive list. This is just an indicative list on what issues their focus will be more. So now coming to the input tax credit issues and block or ineligible credit. While submitting your input tax credit statement, you mentioned that on what are all the invoices you have classified as an ineligible and what are all the invoices on which you have not claimed any ITC. Like that, you give the ITC statement and that statement should match it with your GST 3B claimed ITC. So if you give your ITC statement like that, so they will not question you much. And also non-filer statement. Now the portal itself is restricting if your supplier has not filed the relevant return and payment with 180 days. And again, this is the most important thing. Simply they are asking your closing creditors breakup first, and then they are asking the breakup for the creditors and the payment date for the creditors. So instead of at the time of asking the creditors list itself, you be prepared for this creditors when you have made the payment. Okay, and again they will ask. They are cross-checking the payments with your bank statement later. So you cannot simply give the payment dates before 180 days because they are cross-checking with your bank statement also, whatever that on which date you have given in your the creditors statement. And the creditors written off, ensure that in case of whether if any creditors have been written off, ensure that you have reversed the ITC under section 18(6). And also the place of supply issue. In case of different place of supply, let's say you have registered okay, so you are registered in Karnataka, but you have received the inward from the other state, like you have received any service from AP having place of supply in Andhra Pradesh. In that case, you are not allowed to take the ITC. Now the portal is restricting, but before 25, the portal was not restricting that having the place of supply other than your registered place. Be careful with if you have availed ITC having the place of supply other than your registered place. And also coming to the staff welfare, their audit officer focus will more on the staff welfare expenses. Like if there is any gifts given to employees, on that you should not avail ITC. And also if you have any health policy or life policy you have taken on your employees, on that also you should not to avail ITC as per 17.5 block grade. Ensure that you have not availed ITC on that. And also 2B versus 3B. And again, now uh, this this type of notices are not coming, because very few notices are coming, because the portal itself is highlighting at the time of filing return that you are availing ITC more than reflecting in your 2 week. And reversal for exempt supply. If you are engaged in supplying both taxable and exempted, then in such case you are required to reverse ITC under Rule 42-43. That is in proportion to your exempt supply on the common input. So check in case if you have any exempt supply, and ensure you are adhering with the rule 42 or 43. And credit note received, that whether in case of any credit note received, we need to reverse the ITC. Check whether you are reversing it or not, and claim on the wrong head. Instead of IGST, you have claimed CGST, SCST, or vice versa. In that case, check that also. Um, now coming to the RCM. So, and again, RCM, these are the various, these are the expenses on which we need to pay the GST liability under reverse charge if we have availed any of these services. As per 13/2017 has given the list of services on which the taxpayer is required to pay the tax under reverse charge. So, if you see some of the services which are highlighted in blue, those are the most common services where the this. Sir, can you take up, sir, this slide? I'm getting some. Hello. Just a second, sir. Just we'll continue in 2 minutes. Sorry. Yeah. So ensure that you are compliant with the RCM, and you in all these cases except renting on motor vehicle, whatever the tax you paid under RCM, you can claim the ITC. Whereas in case of renting of motor vehicle, you have to pay the tax under reverser, but you are not allowed to take the ITC on rent-a-car service. Coming to the RCM on foreign payments, reconcile all foreign payments in books with RCM on import of services. Let's say audit officer will ask you whether there are any foreign payments are there or not. And next to that, they will ask the 15 CACB. So for any outward remittance from India, 15 CACB is the mandatory required document. So with the help of that, he will find the foreign payments list. And next to that, he will find whether it will qualify as an import of service. If it covers as an, if it meeting the conditions of the import of service, then we need to pay that reversal under import of service. So that's the reason it is recommended to reconcile all the foreign payments in your books of account with RCM paid on imports. So recently we have seen a case that one of our client has imported one machinery from Germany. To install that machinery, they have availed services from that party. So the from Germany, people has come and installed that machinery and went back. So we on import of machinery, they have paid the custom duty, which includes the IGST. But for availing the installation services, he just capitalized that for that machinery. But it will qualify as an import of service. Later, during our GST review, at the time of closure of books of account, then we found out that it will be as an import of service. We need to pay the RCM on that. So for paying the RCM, almost it took 1.5 months to install that machinery. In crores, they have paid to that party. So on that, we asked him to discharge liability under import of service. So this is the most missed liability to pay under GST import of service. Similarly, you can see the software license or royalty. If you are using any brand name which is registered outside India and making payment for using that brand name, even in that case also it will be uh, fit as an under the import of service, and for that payment you need to pay the RCM as an import of service. And also like professional and consulting fee, just we discussed in the example, and technical and managerial services. If you have availed any services from the foreign, please check whether it will be subject to payment under RCM as an import of service or not. So again, cost audit report. So while submitting the report, whatever it may be, ensure that it is consistent with all your records, with your GST returns, with your income tax and cost audit reports. Okay, any discrepancies between your cost audit data and GST returns may invite a detailed questioning. That's the reason while submitting whatever data to the officer, you please cross check. Otherwise, unnecessarily you invite yourself the detailed questioning by the audit officer. So again, this cost audit report is using by the audit officer for uh, verifying the valuation. This valuation again, in case of related party transaction, they will use it as a cost plus 10%. Again, from this, they will get how much cost they have incurred to manufacture the particular product and all that thing. They will get to know. Not only that, using the cost audit report, they will get to know how much quantity they have produced, how much they're in the stock. So if there is a variance between your sales and the producer cost, and again they will make you land into the trouble, because this much of stock you have produced, but in your books of account you have shown only this much as a closing stock, but whereas in the sales you have showed only 30% of your turnover what you should have done. So balance on 70% they are demanding tax. So they are treating it as an under declaring your turnover. Okay, so be careful while submitting your reports or various reports which are required to maintain under other allied laws. Ensure consistency on all reports. And issues and challenges. So how to address the observations once given by the audit officer. Don't give lengthy replies. You cut short, and uh, here I try to split it into three segments: fact-based, interpretational issues, and procedures. Once you receive the observations or queries from the audit officer, you split into the three parts: fact-based, interpretation, and procedural complex. In case of fact-based, like there is a mismatch between 1 and 3B. There may be a chance of you have declared that, you have paid the liability pertaining to the current year and the subsequent year. You just answer that the current year liability discharged in the subsequent year. To substantiate that, you can give your GSTR9 in table 1011. You may declare that, and also the GST 3B, in which period you have discharged that liability. So that's it. You don't try to explain law to the officer. Okay. So whatever discrepancy he pointed out, you just give answer to that. Don't try to give lengthy replies or using case laws. And in case of if there is any ITC difference between your books and 3B returns, you don't explain the interest part and all that things. Okay, you straightly cut short your reply and give the point wise reply to the queries or the observation. And coming to the interpretation issue, if there is an interpretation issue between the officer and you, you can give the opinion, third party opinion or the expert opinion. You if you have already taken, that may suffice, or that may be used as an evidence and how you have adopted this thing, like tax liability disputes, composite versus mixed supply, and intermediate services, JDA, and valuation disputes, all that things. And coming to the procedural or non-compliance for small issues, like you have not displayed your GST registration certificate at the entrance. For the things, you can use the section 126 for minor breaches. Penalty cannot be imposed under 73, 74 or 122. So you can use the sections and always be polite and don't try to explain law to the officer for small things. Yeah. So yes, sir. Do you want to add anything, sir? Here.
Nothing from my side. Maybe
Yeah.
Ashika can give her the
Yeah.
practical
What you meant?
perspective.
Yeah.
So, as you saw now, we discuss about what is audit, what is the audit procedure, what can be the issue can be involved in the audit procedure. Now, if you will see the exercise and the issue which we have discussed is generally you most of the time we carry out at the time of doing GSTR 9 and 9C. So if you will see 9 and 9C working plays a very important role and it also help you when you are selected for the audit under GST. Because all the workings, all the exhaustive list which you have seen in the previous slides, all those lists you already prepare for doing 99C working. Like the basic documents which generally officer asks, what is your sales register, your ITC register, your RCM on what transaction you have paid, plus sample invoices, and also your balance sheet. 99C is a RICO of financial with while driving to the GST turnover. So each and every data which is generally asked in the department audit is already captured there. So you should keep your 99C working handy and you should check what are the observations you made by doing that working so that you can accordingly plan how to go about this audit. Now, the things which you have to keep in mind before I move forward is when they ask you for submission of documents, they give you 15 days time limit to submit. Audit procedure start with ADT 01, which we have discussed that it discuss about there can be a desk audit or also visit audit. Whatever may be the audit mode, we should not panic. What we should do is prepare ourselves so that we ensure that audit is conducted in a smooth manner and it ensure that liability or issues which can become in the audit is already taken care. So while going through your 99C working, you can check key what are the data you have prepared there. That data only you should once again reconcile with your books and then submit to the officer. So over here, the first step, which is the document submission, plays a very major role. Because if documents is in compliance with what is there in books and what you have reported in R1 and 3B, your major of the problem is solved. But if there is a discrepancy between the data you submitted with the return file, obviously multiple issue is going to be crossed. So the first part of document submission need to be taken care properly. There are few statutory documents. Those documents are either CA certified, cost accountant certified. So those can't be changed or they are proper documents. You should make sure the documents which you are going to submit manually, your dump of register, different register, it matches with books. And once it matches with books, if there is a discrepancy between what the detail you have furnished in returns, then the first step you should do the repo yourself before submitting so that you know what actually happened. Because it can be a case 1 year turnover may be as per books you accounted and tax you might have paid in the next year. But that is not an issue if you keep the RICO ready. Then if you will see the GSTR 9C form, government itself recognized that my books turnover will not match with my GST turnover. And that's the reason they have given us the various table to adjust and come from books turnover to GST turnover. Though, like in previous slide, we were discussing that one of the most common issue is reporting everything in 9C for adjustment under 5O. Though 5O is a residual entry provided there, means as of now also it is an optional. For 24-25 also it was optional that I don't need to report separately from 5B to 5N. I can directly report in 5O of GSTR 9C. But if we report in a respective head properly, it will give transparency to the officer also, means what we did, why we did. Reason being, it is already a part of form. When it is a part of GST form, then how can they can doubt the adjustment which I have done? But if you show everything under 5O, then it creates a doubt that why you have reduced. Doubt is more created when books turnover is reduced to drive GST turnover. When you have increased, then there will be less doubt. They will just want to know why you did it. But where there is a deduction, obviously they will check whether there is any revenue leakage or loss has happened. Similarly, it happened with the input tax credit also. There also, they check whether the ITC detail furnished by you is first thing they will check it is in compliance with GSTR 2B. Because as we are standing today on Jan 26, audit will be going to be conducted for financial year 22-23. I'm talking from the point of 73, means that is a non-fraud case. So, as we are in the financial year 22-23, GSTR 2B was made mandatory to be followed from Jan 22. So, the first thing they will check whether the ITC is in compliance with GSTR 2B or not. So, before you submit your ITC register, cross verify with GSTR 2B. Second, after cross verifying, you should also check the other condition which is prescribed for the ITC, that it should not fall under block credit. Your supplier should have filed your return. You should have claimed the ITC after receipt of goods, service, and you are in possession of the invoice. And another, the most common, the thing which most of the officer pick, payment to your supplier within 180 days. So you should check those compliances before submitting. I know it is too much to check, but basic check which you can do is you should make sure that the data submitted is matching with GSTR 2B. First and foremost is that. Because if the data submitted by you is higher than what is coming in GSTR 2B, that will be the first observation. Then they will come to block credit and then payment to supplier within 180 days. So you should verify all these things. Now coming to RCM part, as for RCM, you should check the various expenses which you are showing in your financial. The common expenses which you yourself can see based on which they will going to issue the audit observation is legal and consultancy, transportation of freight expenses, any government related expenses if you have recorded. Then, like we discussed, foreign disclosure, like in audited financial, by way of note, we also write about the foreign expenditures. That also they will check. In your balance sheet, only related party transaction disclosure is there. That also they will check. So the thing is that this 15 days time, which is given for submission, need to be effectively used before submitting the document to the officer. Because if you are aware what has happened and why there is a discrepancy, you can keep the RICO ready. Because these are the generic questions which officer, based on prima facie, uh, by seeing prima facie your books of account and GST return is going to raise it. Apart from other issues, like while discussing, you saw the slide where we have discussed about the issue. Now, first part here is a fact-based issue. Then second, we discuss interpretational issue and then the procedural issue. Now, this issue just we decided for our ease of discussion. Okay. So when it comes to fact-based issue is what you can check with your documents. Interpretation issue and procedure will come. Fact-based issues are the ones which you yourself will be coming to know while doing GST and 99C. And these things, while doing 99C only, you should take care. If there is a discrepancy and you are aware of what has happened, you should make a proper report and keep it that time only handy. And if any liability is there, you should pay the same and close it off. When it comes to interpretational issue, that we have to see the officer understanding, because here we don't know what issue can crop up. What I am saying to be non-taxable and why he is saying taxable may be on a different reason. Okay, so interpretation issue can't be, means it can't be imagined that it can come, but it depends, because some line of business are of such nature where it can be expected that interpretational issue may crop up. Like if you see tour industries, they have a mechanism where they have been provided the options, like for air tickets they have been given the option that they can pay tax on a base fare valuation part, but there are cases where people charge commission and they don't charge GST on a base fare. There are people who make little profit on this while billing to clients. So few interpretation issue you can't. Plus, you would have noticed officer by closing their eyes sometimes issue notices on place of supply. Whatever has been disclosed as IGST, they will issue a notice, say that no, it's not an IGST, CNS. Now we have seen that number of notice has been issued by classifying an SSC to be a works contract service. Now, the problem is they didn't even took the pain of looking at the GST registration to look what the category of the service or either goods an SSC has provided on GST portal. Because we noticed that our clients were engaged in IT services, they were engaged in export of goods or services, but unnecessary. They have just issued a blindfolded notice for place of supply dispute. So interpretational issues are such issues which can't be predetermine or imagine that this issue can come up until and unless it is an industry-wide issue. Where it is an industry-wide issue and you belong to that industry, so you can imagine that this can come. But fact-based issues are the one which based on the books only you will come to know and you can address this before it is picked by the officer. Procedure and compliance issue. This third issue also can be checked by you before submitting to the officer. You can check that invoice issued by you is in compliance with Rule 46. You can check your GST registration certificate is up to date based on what the data you have with ROC or income tax. So procedure and compliance issue also can be verified or can be updated before submitting to the audit officers. So this is what I want to say. Now moving forward to how you should go about with audit. We came to know about the document submission. Now we submitted the document. After document submission, the process start of issuance of audit observation. Now officer can raise any observation anywhere he feel doubt because his purpose is to collect the revenue. Now, when we on the other side, when the audit observation is issued, we should not feel, "Arey, how he can do? I am a genuine taxpayer. I am doing compliance. Why I have been selected for audit? I am paying all the taxes." You should not feel all this question. Being a government officer, they are doing their part. Being an SSC, we have to do our part. So, if an officer has issued you an audit observation, first thing you should check what type of issue it is. If it is on figure base, discrepancy between one number to another number, you should keep your limit to answering to that fact, and you should not unnecessarily give unnecessary explanation or unnecessary document. Like just for example, if you see the first issue, R1 versus 3B versus books of account, we should not unnecessarily start books of account is based on this, R1 is based on this. Unnecessary, we should not bring in accounting provision or legal provision or GST time of supply until and unless it is necessary. What I mean to say is, if suppose there was a difference between R1 and 3B, which you were well aware and you have taken care while filing GST or 3B in the next year, we should limit and give our answer very clearly that this short payment has been paid in the month of April 25 of GSTR 3B, and it can be duly evident from my R1 and 3B file. And you should give the copy of R1 and 3B. You should not unnecessarily write key law allow me to do the correction or rectification till November of 25. So 24, 25 correction I did in November 25, where before November 25, whereby I corrected in April 25. You should not go into this legality if your case is very simple. You should keep it also simple. The more the brief, more the simpler the fact, more easy that this case will get closed here only instead of getting it dragged. So you have to drive your approach. You have to think how it should be replied. Now, if you say 2B versus 3B, these are the most common from 1718. We are saying these issues are coming, and every time it is there in the notice. Now, when it comes to 2B versus 3B or 2A versus 3B, previous years, you need to be taking care that how you should go. Like, for example, you know that this ITC difference is coming because I have claimed last year ITC in the current year. Fine. If you have claim in that manner, you should give the RICO and working with the supporting. What supporting you can give? Your GSTR 99C. In 99C, we disclose in table 8C, table 13, and in 9C, table 12C. So with all those documents, you can substantiate that I have claimed ITC relating to 23-24 in 24-25. Plus, you can show by way of a RICO that my 2B or 2A auto-populated was 10 lakh. I claim in 3B 8 lakh in 23-24. That balance 2 lakh I have claimed in 24-25. Instead of writing the things, ki, no, GSTR 2A was never a base for disallowance of ITC. It has been introduced recently. What I'm trying to say, while drafting a reply to audit observation, we need to be careful what need to be presented, how it need to be presented, and where it need to be stopped. So, if you feel by giving a RICO, my case will end, unnecessary writing that 2A was not, under the provision 2A was not there, law got amended now, it's of no use. It's better if you want to close the case, you have to decide how you want to move ahead. Like if it is a simple RICO and working, it's better to give that and get it closed, irrespective of dragging it. So this is how the approach of drafting of reply will be decided. Now, if you say there is some error has been done, excess claim has been done, now party don't want to pay, then obviously you write 2A is not a base. Based on 2A versus 3B, it can't be determined that there is an excess claim of ITC. Then all those things are okay. But if you have a proper fact, you have a proper figure, you have a proper RICO, unnecessary writing, the legality and all is considered not to do. Okay. Then coming to interpretational issue, there also you should, while replying to audit observation, your approach should always to limit to fact instead of going into legal until and unless you feel it need to be produced. So while writing for interpretational issue is like place of supply, I said, just because on unnecessary by classifying me under wrong category of service, like works contract service, they said me I need to pay CNS. Correct. Now, in this, why should I make too much of dispute? I have to decide I want to get the case closed or how I should go about. So I will keep it simple. I will say I am into this category of service, not the works contract service mentioned in the notice, which can be clearly evident from my GST registration. One. Second, what is my place of supply? You are saying I have provided service to this category of the person who are registered under this category, this state, which can be evident from GST registration. I'm giving the copy of invoices which contain the description of the service provided and HSN code, which clearly stabilize that for this service, my place of supply is this. Accordingly, my IGST charge is correct. So what I'm trying to say is you have to see how you have to go about it. And in the case of audit observation, it is always advisable to go with facts. You should not unnecessarily bring case laws. That is also a wrong thing you are doing by bringing unnecessary case law at the time of audit observation. When things can be simplified and can be closed with the simple facts by providing it with the documents, then where there is a harm. But obviously, everybody have a different approach. Sometimes they feel, why should I address such type of audit observation or such nature? But being an SSE, thinking about the time and cost involved, we should take the step which best suit and ensure proper closure of the audit with reduced tax liability or minimum tax liability. So this is what is about the effective audit coordination, that you should know what to write and what to provide so that your risk will be less. Providing unnecessary data also create a problem. The things which were not in the mind of the audit officer, by submitting your document, you are putting that in the mind of the officer. So specifics have to be taken for document submission and what reply need to be submitted. So this is how you should go. And as I said you, case law should not be put in the reply until and unless you feel that by way you will get relief. Okay. And plus you have to also decide when you need to produce and how you need to produce. Everything cannot be given at the first step itself. It's all planning and a strategy which goes in the audit, because it's not what we are into, it's also how the officer is reading the data, how much of the knowledge officer hold, so that while discussing it will ensure smooth audit process. Because it has been seen sometime audit officer doesn't understand the accounting policy being followed. That also result into a problems. They don't understand how the balance sheets are prepared and why there is a difference in GST turnover. So you need to be careful while giving the data. Plus, at the time of submission of document only, it is advisable in covering letter, you first put your brief about the business. So that officer get the idea what business you are into and accordingly move forward. Because that work as a good one reason when they will come to know what your business is, so what type of income you will getting and what type of your expense, and it will ease our process also. They will not disallow unnecessary ITC credit. See, if you are in works contract service, my all the constructed related material are ITC eligible. They can't say to be a block credit. So you need to be little thoughtful. As now you all we all have 2 years, 3 years, many audit has been done for those 17, 18, 18, 19, 19, 20s, 2021. So now we are also learning how they are reading and they are also learning how we are doing. So it's going both way. So we have to take the best out of it and see how we should go about it. So reading of audit officer is also important to decide how we should move ahead with. Then whatever documents or reply you are submitting, you should everything you should put it on writing and on record. You should take acknowledgement of it and keep with you, because this will ensure that you have the, if in case officer in future issue a notice saying that I did not receive the document, therefore I am confirming the demand, but you have the acknowledgement that you have submitted the document, it will work as piece of cake for you while fighting the case in the further proceeding. Also, we should not be bagging before the officer. We should always maintain the professional tone. We should not say, "Sir, we our financial conditions are not good. We won't be able to do. This is what happened." So this all unnecessary sympathy and all should not be done. We should be professionally replying what the issue involved, why we think we are not liable to pay, and what the facts involved. Now, Another thing is, sometimes it happened by seeing the issue involved and quantum of tax demanded. We feel like let's pay it and close it off. For 20, 30K or 1 lakh rupees, what I will fight? If I fight, my cost of litigation may be more than that. So there, then we have to take a decision whether we should pay it and close and buy the piece or whether we should fight it further. Now, this will depend upon the fact about what the issue is, whether it is of recurring nature or that issue is how it going to hit you in the future. Sometimes it happened that one party, suppose ineligible ITC came and in 21-22, by seeing the amount of 20K, you thought, let's pay it and close it off. And you did that. Next year, again, the same party came, but this time the ITC from that party is coming quite huge, 5 lakh. Now, you may feel that ki, obviously officer is going to say in last year audit, you accepted, you paid and closed. It means you are accepting this ITC is not eligible. Now, this year you can't contest. But the thing is not like that. By seeing the quantum, if you have paid, you can put it on reply of the last year when you were doing that. I have paid this to avoid litigation, but I have not accepted this liability. I just did it to buy my peace of mind to reduce the cost of litigation. If you write with a protest, then you are not giving up your right to fight it for the subsequent year. So you have to see how you are planning to go about it. Because there are cases where the amount, even though small, but being of recurring nature, people fight. Because if we cumulative see for 5 years or 10 years, then the accumulation of that amount demand will be huge. So that's a call which need to be taken. Now you can say that like amnesty scheme came. Many people went into amnesty scheme just to close the cases so that unnecessary litigation don't goes on. Now, it need to be keep in mind, opting for amnesty scheme doesn't mean acceptance of liability. Both are not equal to. That need to be keep in mind. We opt for amnesty by thinking that it's not worth it to fight for such a small amount, or let us close because we have to keep our balance sheet clean. We are answerable to third party. There are many reasons which comes into picture, but payment is not equivalent to acceptance that you need to show to the officer. So these are the all the things we have already discussed, that when the audit notice is received, you should check whether the person who is issuing the audit notice is the proper officer or not. You have to keep in mind this issuing power is not only limited to audit, but any notice which is issued. So any of the notices, maybe assessment notice, maybe audit notice, investigation notice, show cause notice, any of the notices which is issued, you should check the person issuing is an authorized person or not. Now, we have seen that there are cases where we receive multiple notices for the same year. Now, we know that law provides cross empowerment under Section 6, where both center and state have the power to do the audit. So, as both have been given the power, so there are chances that sometime same SSC receive notice from the both the department, or sometime it happened center do the audit notice, state do the inspection notice, 67 such. So in those situations, you have to write to the officer saying that I have been selected for both, will request to kindly one of you to continue. But whether parallel proceeding are allowed, it is allowed under GST. But there is one exception, that it cannot happen on a same subject matter. So if both the officer has given a same reason that they are coming due to IDC issue 2A versus 3B, or they are mentioning in that basis, then both can't proceed. One has to continue. And you can write a letter to both the officer and asking them to decide who will go ahead with. Then whenever you are submitting your document, as I said, you should submit with a covering letter so that you also have a record of what document you submitted. And we already discussed before submitting document, everything you should review correctly. Means you should make sure there is no fact issue discrepancy, neither there is any procedural non-compliance. While submitting reply to audit observation, it is beneficial if you do issue-wise reply. You should not merge, make it hodgepodge. It should be specific. Issue one this, reply to issue one is this. Supporting to reply to issue one are this. So you should give in a clean manner, like we discussed in previous slide. It should be properly numbered. It should be, if you can make index, if the volume of the data you are submitting or in while replying you are submitting a huge document, it's better to do the index and then give so that you will be also see we submit after reply submitting what happened after going through it, officer call for discussion. So at that time, if documents are properly numbered and handy, it will be easy for you also. You can also say, sir, come to page number 7. Here I submitted this document, which will substantiate my ground. So this all things need to be checked. Now it has been noticed in the investigation, many a time we were forced to make the payment because they say, I will not leave the premise if you don't. Though it is not allowed under law, even various court has held that under pressure, you can't ask to the officer that you can't ask the SSC to pay the tax. But if paid, you see how to go about it. Even if we have paid, you have to check whether they have appropriated the payment made or not. If they have not appropriated, you can call for refund. You have, because see, just because they come for the investigation, they collected some money, it doesn't mean I'm liable to pay. They have to proceed with that proceeding. They have to issue a show cause notice. They have to write to me for what basis they collected. They just can't collect and go. And if they did that and they didn't mention or issued you any notice, then go for refund because this collection is not as per law. Now, as we were discussing that you have to check what are the issue raised and you have to check your positions in those issues. Based on that, accordingly, you have to reply for it. Okay, so what happened? Audit observation issued. You submitted your reply, discussion happened. Now, after that, final audit report will be issued, where basically the officer will be one by one will be concluding whether he agreed with your point or he does not agree. So there will be issue, then there will be a reply, then there will be a conclusion. So this is what the audit report is, which is basically a conclusion of whole audit procedure prescribed under 65. So once they conclude, all documents submitted, all observation made, reply given, not given, because you saw there is a time limit to complete the audit. Sometimes they write, as no reply is submitted, we are confirming the demands. So you need to be active, you need to check, you need to reply, you have to make sure that you have done the compliance. Because for officer, it's very simple. They will just issue one audit report by confirming the demand. So you have to make sure before they does that, you have done your compliances properly. Now, after audit report is issued, now what? Now, after audit report is issued, it may be a clean audit report, means tax all issue has been dropped. I'm not saying as that it doesn't happen. It happened. Even there are cases where we got clean audit report also. Issues get dropped 100%. There are cases where 100% demand is confirmed, where officer did not agree with any of the points which have been defense, which has been put forward and demand has been confirmed. There can be a case of mix where part consider, part not. Now, once we receive fully draw, nothing to do, just keep the record of it and assign. But where there are certain demand confirmed, now call need to be taken. Either you have to decide you want to go ahead with the fight or you want to pay it and close. If you want to pay and close, no issue. You pay it and inform to the officer, audit officer only you have to inform that I have paid this taxes interest. So kindly conclude it, because if you don't inform, he won't be aware that you have paid the liability and he will proceed with the notice. So it's important, if you decided to pay off the taxes and close the proceeding, you do write to the officer and inform, so that he can write in his file that as they have made the payment, no further proceeding is done. Now, if suppose you decided to proceed with the fight, you don't agree with what officer is saying, which happen in most of the cases, then obviously adjudication proceeding will start. So they will be issuing you DRC 018. Again, you have to submit the reply to that. And after that, show cause notice in DRC 01. Now, there is a thing, when audit officer work or audit officer who has issued, his work get ended with ADT 02. After that, if you have not agreed, he will be only issuing you show cause notice. But he will not be the person who will be adjudicating the show cause notice. So, though he will issue the show cause notice, but he will not adjudicate the show cause notice. So, after audit officer, it will be shifted to your jurisdictional officer. So even though you should not feel ki what the audit officer is going to issue the show cause notice, now what he will listen. At the time of audit, he didn't listen. After issuance of notice also, what he will listen. But here under GST, they said that audit officer cannot proceed with show cause notice adjudication. So that's the benefit you can take. After the show cause notice, it will go to the different officer. Sometime in state, same audit officer is assigned show cause notice also. But you can write and say that I want a different officer, because it is against the principle of natural justice that the audit officer who didn't listen at the time of audit will also not listen at the time of show cause notice. Then they are bound to change the officer, and they will change the officer and give it to another person. So you can request, and accordingly show cause notice adjudication will be done by another officer, which is basically your judicial officer. It gets shifted, but in state it gets shifted to another audit officer, but in center it comes to judicial officer. Now, as you are going to dispute, I said show cause notice. So show cause notice can be either under 73 or 74. 73 non-fraud case, 74 fraud case. And now again you will going to present your case. Now, here, while presenting, you have to keep in mind how show cause notice has been drafted. You can't go with the same mindset of the audit. Now you have to change your approach. Okay, now you have to change your approach. Now you can't go with same audit mindset. Now you have to read the show cause notice. What happened in audit is a whole thing. Forget about it the moment notice is issued. Now you have to see and read show cause notice, see the drafting of show cause notice, and accordingly decide your defense. Accordingly, you have to decide your defense, and accordingly, you have to move with it. You can't go ahead with audit and keep on submitting the same thing. You have to check how now, what the things mentioned in the show cause notice, based on the allegation made in show cause notice, you are going to submit your reply. These are the time limit for issuance of show cause notice and order. Now I said 20 to 23 is going for 73. So September 26 is last. So that you people need to take care. If any audit is going on, just make sure you do the compliances before, because last moments are too much of rush. So you submit your document as fast as possible and ensure audit proceeding, because now audit officer will be also not so much pressurized. They will give you an opportunity. They will hear out your case. But if we go on the last moment, they will be also under pressure, and they will say, okay, we'll pass notice. You go and present at the time of after issuance of show cause notice. That goes against, in the sense that once they issue, they put things on record. They write that this is, then based on merit, they little reluctant to pass in favor. So instead of just just wasting time unnecessary, it's better we submit our document I should not go and say that come to my office and do that, but I am saying we should do our compliances, let the other thing take it their course. Then here, if you will see 24-25 financial year is separately mentioned because new section 74 has been introduced. So for till 23-24, it will be under 73-74. After that, it will be under 74A. And under 74A, there is a new timeline for SCM and order. Now, if notice has been issued, then 73 is your 10% of tax or 10,000 and 74 is 100%. Though there is a staggered manner, means if you pay the tax, interest and penalty within 30 days, reduced penalties are provided. But there is one more thing, section 126. 126 cover with general discipline of penalty, means while imposing penalty, officers are expected to not just because under law it is prescribed that 73 this much penalty, 74 they should not blindly follow, they should see case to case and accordingly decide the penalty. So that is what 126 deals with. One second, it also says that for minor procedure and lapses, reduced penalty of 20K is also prescribed there. Then obviously you have a right for personal hearing. It is all in the case of show cause notice that after the show cause notice, you have a right for personal hearing. But at the time of audit observation also, you have the right to be heard. May not in the nature of personal hearing, but you should be given an opportunity to present your case. After hearing, after show cause notice, after your reply, after personal hearing, officer has to pass an order, which should be an speaking order. Means he can't just write, I am confirming the demand. He has to write why I am confirming the demand and on what basis. So this is what speaking order is said. Now, as we discussed, there are cases where under pressure of audit and all, we make the payment and all. You have to see how to deal with it. If it is a RCM payment, you can check for ITC. If you have wrongly paid the taxes, you can claim refund. And if it's related to refund, obviously interest on delay refund will be applicable. So you should see due to consequence of payment is anything which you need to take care or any benefit will allow. Like mostly in the RCM, when we paid the tax, we are eligible for input tax credit. But that is all only under 73, not under 74. Under 74, RCM payment ITC is also not allowed. It is specifically under block credit. You can go and read. The now coming to the part is, okay, audit done. You came to know maybe some non-compliance or some lacuna. You might have find out that you have noticed it has happened. So it is advisable if such lacuna relates to books of account and all, you should go correct it. You should get another person to review books. So because many companies have their internal team to maintain, but don't know how that internal team is updating themselves. GST is such a law that after introduction, so many changes keep on coming, so many updates are coming up. It's difficult to keep an update for a businessman. So it's advisable they should seek consultancy or they should try to get one review or one audit so that they can come to know is any miscompliance or anything they are missing on the part of eligibility, taxability that should be taken care so that it does not become a big cost in the future. So this is all from our side for the purpose of GST audit. If anybody has any query, they can unmute themselves and ask.
Thank you, Ashika. Very nicely covered. And couple of points. Very detailed session. As Stephen said, the copy of the session will be provided. In law, whatever written in the act is the law. Rest interpretation will always keep changing because it is only an interpretation. What the officer thinks is may not be the commissioner thinks, and what commissioner thinks may not be what tribunal thinks, and what tribunal thinks may not be the high court, right? Likewise, you got to be very clear with your stand, getting to know what should be your approach, which Ashika has explained, that this is the way you are safeguarding your right, you are keeping your litigation right alive for the future. That is most important. Any questions to anyone? All right. So thank you, everyone. So let's move to the second part of today's session, which is on cyber security. And we have Ansar from our team who would be taking us through that what cyber security is about and what are the things that we as a tax professional, a common man, be aware of. What is that we need to look at? Yeah. Ansar, over to you.
Okay, thanks, Venu. And hello, everyone. I can't see any faces, so please let me know if you can see me and hear me in the chat by giving a thumbs up so I can see. Okay, very good. Good. Thank you. Thanks so much. Okay, great. Now everybody is going to come on video and then again disappear. Okay, it's okay. Okay, it's good. At least we know that there are no robots in this session and we have to enjoy these face-to-face sessions now, because in 10 years, we don't know. It could be that I will say that I have a 1 hour presentation on cybersecurity. I tell my robot, I give them 3 points. Robot converts that into a 300-page document. Then they send it to your robot. Your robot reads the 300-page document, converts it back to 3 bullet points for you. So we should not be in that stage. So let us enjoy face-to-face conversations and enjoy these sessions while we have them. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen now. Let me know if you can see my screen as well. Okay. Okay, great. So this is a very quick introduction on cybersecurity. Okay. Before I start, does anybody have any experience in cybersecurity, or is everybody trying to escape cybersecurity because ICA removed the final paper on cybersecurity and everybody is trying to escape? Is there anything like that, or are you interested in cybersecurity? Have you heard about cybersecurity? Is it something that's interesting? Let me know in the chat. Okay. No, okay. Good. Okay. So anyway, we'll start. And I'll give you some very basic fundamentals. Okay, we'll start with the absolute basics. Okay, so you don't have to struggle too much. I'm not going to give any highfalutin concepts. This is an introduction to cybersecurity. So we'll start at the basic level. Okay. First, what is cybersecurity? Okay. Cybersecurity is just, if you have to boil it down, it is just digital security. Just like how if you have physical assets, you have, let's say, your scooter, your bike, your car, your house, gold, all that. For all of that, you apply physical security. Cybersecurity is about protecting digital assets, okay? Digitally securing your assets. So what are the different kinds of areas that cybersecurity protects? What is in scope for cybersecurity? So there are 4 broad areas under cybersecurity. Okay, there is the protection of people, protection of processes, protection of assets, and protection of technologies. So people does not mean physical people, even though some part of physical protection is part of cybersecurity, like CCTV cameras and heat, ventilation, all of that. A part of that comes under cybersecurity. But for the most part, when we say people, it means your digital identity. Okay, it could be your PAN card, your Aadhaar card, something that personally identifies you, your home address, okay, your username, your password. All of that is your digital identity, and that falls in under the scope of cybersecurity. Next is processes. Okay, processes means anything that leverages technology to go from point A to point B. Okay, so processes does not stop at information security processes or IT processes. It's not coding. Okay, even sales is a process that requires, at least even if you don't use anything, you use some laptop or you use a Google Sheet or you use Excel. Even if you don't do anything, even if everything is on call, you write down some comments somewhere or you send an email to your CA or whoever it is. You send an email and you get some customers or you take leads. Operations is a process. Accounting is a process. Marketing is also a process. Everything is a process. Anything that leverages technology is a process. Okay, and all of that is part of, it comes under the protection of cybersecurity. Next is assets. Okay, assets are physical assets that enable the use of technology. So for example, your laptop, what you're listening to me right now, that comes under cybersecurity. Okay, even the assets that you use, like I'm using this headphones. In big corporations, if they give you their corporate headphones, even that protection of that also comes under cybersecurity. Okay, everything, servers, databases, data centers, all of those huge assets, physical assets, comes under the protection of cybersecurity. And last is technologies. Technologies is everything that sits on top of assets. So software, hardware, all of that are technologies. Like for example, we are on Zoom right now. This is a technology. You're using email. Gmail is a technology. Zoho is a technology. So all of these different aspects, people, processes, assets, and technologies, come under cybersecurity. And how do you protect all of these different areas? You protect them using controls. Okay, I'll give a very short example. You may have used VPN if you have a multi-location firm, or if you worked in different locations from your office and you want to access something that is in your office. If you're off-site and you want to access your office database, or you want to access your office tally server. So for that, you log into VPN. So in VPN, the credentials that you enter, the username and password that identifies you as a user, is the people part of digital security. The process of role-based access, meaning that if you're an article, you get only view level access, or you get a basic level access. If you're a team leader, you get access to more than one project. Okay, if you're the CA, you get access to all the projects, and maybe you can even review and make changes to the data that you get. Every person has different levels of access, and every person plays a role. And the objective of cybersecurity is to give the minimum level of access for you to do your job. If you're an article and you don't need to see the financial accounts, you don't need to see confidential information, you will not be given access to all of that information. You will only be given view access, most basic access required to do your job. Okay, that is what is comes under processes. Next is the assets, the server, the VPN server that you may have in your office, the physical VPN, the firewall device that you may or may not have seen in your office that enables the VPN, and your laptop, okay, your personal laptop or your corporate laptop, if you have been assigned that comes under assets, and the VPN application where you give your username and password, and that connects through the internet to the VPN server. That is the technology. So just in one small, for you as a front-end user, you may only say, I logged into VPN, I gave my user ID and password. But as a cybersecurity professional, these are all the different things that come under the purview of cybersecurity. Okay, and just like how you cannot learn CA, so cybersecurity is similar to saying doctor and CA. Okay, there are different levels of doctor, there are different specialists in doctors. There are different kinds of CAs that specialize in different aspects. So even in cybersecurity, there's a general understanding that you need to have, just like how in CA you have to pass the CA final exam and pass all the different papers in the CA exam, and in doctors you have to get MBBS. After that, you specialize. Same thing in cybersecurity. There is a general understanding that everybody needs to get, okay, of what cybersecurity is, what the fundamentals are, what the different types of controls are, or different areas that they want to do. Then they specialize. They specialize into audit. They specialize into, but they may become white hat hackers. They specialize into GRC. There are so many different avenues within cybersecurity that you can get into and specialize. But all of that requires a first initial basic level of understanding. Okay, and I will try to cover that basic, very basic level understanding in this session. Okay, and then why do we need cybersecurity? Okay, so the main objective of cybersecurity is protection of assets. Like I told you before, protection of all the different kinds of the different areas that comes under cybersecurity. So what does it enable? In the end, what do you get? You get financial security, meaning that All the numbers that you see as a CA, all the GST filing that you do, all of that is financial data. It is supposed to be very, very confidential. It should not leak to competitors. It should not leak to the public. It should not go anywhere else. Even within the organization, there are different layers of access, like I talked about. So cybersecurity is there to ensure financial security. Okay, it also is also there to protect data with data classification. These are more advanced concepts that I'll come to later, but just know that there is something called data classification, where you classify data based on its importance. So how do we know what data is important? First, we have to classify the data. Okay, that's what comes under data classification, and different levels of data and different types of data gets different levels of protection. It's not like you have your website and you put maximum security on your website. Website mostly has public data. The reason you have a website is because you want to show something to the public. So we will not apply as much security on the website as you put to your financial statements that are mostly in the backend, that are only for the executive layer of the organization. Next is operational continuity. So cybersecurity is there to ensure that there is no single point of failure, meaning that if one laptop goes wrong or you're trying to access the internet, it does not work, it should not be that business collapses or everything comes to a halt. Cybersecurity is there to ensure business continuity and disaster recovery. Even in case the worst case scenario, you get hacked, there is a ransomware, all your assets get locked, there is a way to recover. Okay. All of that comes under cybersecurity. Using different methodologies, using different technologies, there are different kinds of recovery systems and redundancies that you can implement to continue your business and ensure that it doesn't stop. So you may have heard in the news sometimes that ChatGPT was down for 2-3 hours or Google was down. They always find a way to recover, because even though they are huge companies, their customer base is in billions, they can still recover the systems because they have redundancies, and because they have backup systems in place. One server goes down, they will have one more server that comes back up, that has the same data, it gives you same real-time protection. Okay. Then legal compliance. Legal compliance is not that huge in India right now, but in foreign countries, it is a very big deal. There is GDPR for protection of personal data in Europe. There is HIPAA for protection of health information records in the US. There is SOC 2 audits that ensures financial data protection. So all of that has not come to India yet. We are starting to see small glimpses of the DPDP Act, Digital Personal Data Protection Act, and I will cover that as well. But legal compliance in India is not that huge, but it will get there eventually. It's just that we are a little slow to get to that level. But businesses in India that you see that are interacting with international clients, for example, if you go back to Zoho, Zoho has clients in multiple locations and multiple geographical areas. For the clients in those countries, for them to trust Zoho will undergo SOC 2 audits. They'll show certificates that we are GDPR compliant, we are ISO 27001, we have a certificate that shows, just like how as an auditor you may give a certificate. These are international benchmark certificates that Zoho will go to appeal to the customers in those geographical areas, in different areas. So Europe, they will need GDPR. America, they will need SOC 2. So like that, if you want to interact, if you want to break through and go to the next level of marketing, and you want to attract international clients, and not just international clients, but even large cap companies and even mid cap companies, you need a very strong cybersecurity base, because they are trusting you with their data. You might be a CA and say, okay, I know everything that a CA does. I'm in the top 1%. But if you don't know how to secure your client's data, they will not trust you enough to share their data with you. Or they will share a security questionnaire with you and say, please answer these questions of what you will do with our data. Let's say once we share our data with you, what will you do with it? And you have to answer to their standard. It is not up to our standard that in India we don't have legal compliance, so we don't answer. It will be up to their standard, and their standards will be international standards. So it builds customer trust. If you can say that we have cybersecurity in place, we have redundancies in place, we have protection in place, it builds customer trust and it unlocks premium markets. Okay, it protects the revenue that you have already, and it unlocks the next level of premium marketing that you can do, and you can attract larger clients and appeal to them and say, we know what we do in GST, we know what we do in accounting, we know what we do in audit. Plus, we have this very strong base of what the consequences are once you give your data to us. Okay, will not come with a USB and copy your data and come back to office. We have a system in place. We have secure protection in place. Okay, so this is why we need cybersecurity. So now let's pause immediately and see if this is relevant to you now and in 10 years. So I was just talking about how in 10 years, I will give 3 bullet points to my robot and robot will convert it to 300 pages and give you 3 bullet points back. So if that's what is going to happen, and AI takes over the world, and AI is everything that all the big companies are promising, everything that Google is promising, everything that Claude is promising, AI is all of that and more. In 10 years, do we need cybersecurity? What is if my robot is going to everything? If my internet goes down and I'm doing some filing, if I tell my robot, hey, my internet is down, or my laptop is showing a blank screen, my robot will fix it. Why do I have to care about cybersecurity? Okay, so let's explore this point. I will not say any answers because you are audit professionals and GST professionals and tax professionals. I will give you some evidence. Okay, so like how in the previous session, Ashika was talking about giving evidence. I will give some evidence. You decide on your own if this is relevant and if you should bother learning this, or you can wait for 10, 15 years and your robot will take care of everything. Okay, so first I'll say what is the future of cybersecurity? What does cybersecurity look like in 10 years from now, in 15 years from now? We'll start with this. So first is I was telling you about the DPDP Act, Digital Personal Data Protection, which means that only companies that collect our data, for example, if you want the smallest thing, like you want a new SIM card, you have to go and give your PAN number, your Aadhaar number. So now once this DPDP Act is in place, companies will only collect data that needs to be collected. They will not collect anything more than that. And if they do, we have control to tell them to delete our data. It is not like anybody can take your Aadhaar card and share it with you and then say, delete my data. There are different layers here as well. There's lots of intricacies because this is an act, like you heard about from Ashika. Once it becomes an act, there are so many levels of intricacies. There's so many levels of sections and subsections and all of these things. But the general idea, the objective of DPDP Act is that companies should only collect data that they need from you, not more than that. And you have more control to decide what data companies keep from you. So I'll give you a more recent example where you may have gone to many websites this week or this month, and you'll see a pop-up that will say preferences. We share cookies, we save cookies, we collect your information. Do you accept, do you reject, or do you want to change your preferences? I don't know if you have seen this, but in many websites, even Indian websites, that pop-up is starting to come up. You can select your preferences, you can accept all the cookies, or you can reject all the cookies. So these are companies that are preparing for your preferences. So whatever preferences you give, whatever option you select, based on that, they will save those preferences, or they should save those preferences and only collect that data that you're willing to share with them. Okay, even in your phone, when let's say you buy a new phone, you just say agree, 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 next, next, next. Okay, all of that is because of, in international standards, they have all of these acts in place and protections in place. They have to get your consent. Otherwise, they cannot collect any data from you. And even if you were paying attention to all the lawsuits that Google went through and Meta went through, their main defense was, we took their consent. Whatever we did, you can say we did this, we did that, we shared our data, we did all this, but we took the user. They will not say that so specifically. They will not be so blunt. They know how to talk to the different layers of government. But basically what they were saying was, we took people's consent. We did not do anything illegal. We told people that we are going to do this. They clicked on agree. Only after that we did it. Otherwise, we wouldn't have done it. That was their defense. That's why most of them, there was no consequences to any of the lawsuits that came out on Google, on Meta, on Instagram, all of these different things. There were almost no consequences because they were able to prove that they took your consents. Okay, next is robotics and automation. I think we already covered this. We are removing humans from the process itself. We are talking about processes before sales, operations, accounts, marketing. We are removing humans from there. We are getting our robots. We have autonomous technologies, meaning They think on their own and they work on their own, like self-driving cars are autonomous technologies. We remove the human element, robot takes care of everything. Okay. Next is zero trust architecture. So like how in audit, there's a principle of trust but verify. This is the opposite of that. Don't trust anything, don't trust anybody. First, they have to verify, only then you trust. Okay, this is where cybersecurity is going towards. Right now, it is trust but verify. Tomorrow, it will become, not tomorrow, in the next few years, it will become zero trust architecture. Next is quantum computing. So all the AI systems that you use, everything that you use is still in the supercomputer level. Quantum computing is the next level of computing. All the biggest supercomputers, the greatest devices that you may have heard of from Google and from IBM, all the different technologies that they're using, all the supercomputers that you keep hearing about, the amount of time it will take a supercomputer to do something, let's say it takes a supercomputer 10 years or 50 years to do something, quantum computers will do it in a few seconds, 5 seconds, 10 seconds. Okay, that's the level of exponential level of growth that computing is heading towards. By let's say 2040, they will be commercially available. Quantum computers will be available. Maybe they will cost, they'll be out of our budget in India, but the big companies will be using them. Okay, and they will already be available. They would have found a way to solve all the problems. Right now, quantum computers need to be at almost 0 degrees Celsius to work properly. In 15, 20 years, they'll figure out how to do it, how to figure out, and they'll have figured out how to commercially market it. Okay. Next is artificial intelligence and machine learning. You may have already be using ChatGPT, already be using Google Gemini. There are offers for free ChatGPT, free Gemini. You may have already signed up to that. So this is just the beginning stage of artificial intelligence and machine learning. Over time, it will keep growing. It will keep getting stronger, keep getting faster, keep giving you more nuanced responses. Okay, all of that is the future of cybersecurity. 15 years, 10 years from now, it will be a completely different level. So one question you can ask somebody who says that cybersecurity will not be relevant is, technology is moving faster than governments and regulators can catch up. So let's say all of this is implemented, DPDP Act, robots, zero trust architecture, quantum computing, artificial intelligence. Okay, at the end of the day, governments cannot catch up to everything that companies are doing on the ground. Okay, regulators cannot catch up to everything that companies are doing on the ground. Plus, they need a lot of data to formulate acts, to formulate regulations. So who do they trust on the ground to look after all this, to look after that, to protect people, to protect assets, to protect technologies? They will look after cybersecurity professionals. Okay, that is what the scope is for cybersecurity professionals, that however much technology improves, however many exponential leaps it takes, before 5-10 years, we did not have AI. Now everybody has AI. Everybody can use AI. But even after all of that, cybersecurity will still be relevant because somebody needs to be there to protect information. At the end of the day, it's all about protecting information. Okay, that's a scope that cybersecurity professionals have. Let's explore even further. Let's go one more layer deep and see if you're not convinced with my argument, like Ashika was saying, there's argument and sub-argument and something else. So here, this is my argument, first argument. This is my sub-argument, okay, of what AI can do. Okay, AI assets cybersecurity. So let's see, just like how as people, we go to college, then we join some entry-level job, then we start learning and growing. And then we keep upgrading ourselves, keep updating ourselves. Let's look at the life cycle of AI in terms of doing jobs and taking over our jobs. Okay, so the learning style of AI, if you look at AI in college stage, as of today, you can learn whatever you want with AI, but it is all a self-education. Okay, you chat with AI, you tell AI what your problem is, you ask some questions, it will give you some responses. You have to learn on your own. Okay, the best case scenario, everything I said before now, all of those technologies come true. Everything is the best. Everything that has been promised is delivered. 15 years from now, everything is the best. Even then, even the best robots will require some basic human input in the beginning. Okay, even if it is just to click the on button, there'll be some initial basic input that is required from humans. Okay, robots may learn themselves. Robots may teach themselves. You might just say, okay, you're my GST robot. You learn everything in GST, but you have some basic level of input will be required. Okay, then the next level is training. Okay, what happens with the training? Right now, AI can guide you based on input. So, for example, you give any problem and say, I want to learn this section in GST, and you ask me questions and you take a test. Okay, AI can do all of that today. Today, AI can ask you questions. It will search on the web. You don't even have to give any information. It will read the GST Act. It will read all the GST regulations. It will find real life cases, and it will give you, I'll ask you questions. And when you respond, it will rate your answers also. It will say, okay, you answered this point, but you did not give subsection this. And you can set the difficulty level also. You can say 10% ask me easy questions, 10% ask me difficult questions, everything else you ask in the middle, I want to be safe. It'll ask you all of those questions and rate your responses also, like a teacher. Okay. And robots in the future, however advanced the robot is, okay, if we come to a point where everybody has a robot, like how everybody has a laptop, everybody's laptop, everybody's robot will be an individual creation. Okay, so any individual creation requires individual input, meaning that I'm using this laptop now. I had to install Word, I had to install Zoom. Just like that, even in robots, you may have a robot that does everything in that case, but it will still need some kind of human training. Okay. Next is the operations. This is the real life practical work after learning, after training. We come to real life. What operations can AI perform today? So AI today can manually create automation agents. Okay. It can do everything that you do. If you have a very strong documentation, if you have very strong expertise, okay, you can create an AI that mimics your actual manual workflow. Okay, provided that it requires a lot of time, it requires a lot of input. You need to have everything documented. You need to have you need to cross all the T's and dot all the I's. Everything has to be there. But it is possible today. There is limited scope. Some part will always be manual because AI is still not at that stage where it can self-learn and learn on its own and get better on its own. But with some manual input, with expertise, you can create AI agents that do your work in an automated way. Okay, but robots 15 years from now, it will be fully autonomous. You don't have to do anything. You give some training, you give some learning, you give an aspect, and you say, okay, you do it. They will figure out how to do it. Okay, next is maintenance and upgrade. So here, everything maintenance is all human driven. Okay, even if it's the smallest, even if one screw comes loose in some server, they might have $1 billion servers. Google may have billions of dollars of server. But if they have to maintain that server, if it gets too hot, if it gets too cold, some screw gets loose, some human has to come and tighten that screw and play with the AC and decide the temperature. Okay, but 15 years from now, it will be mostly AI driven. AI will know, okay, at this point, usually it spikes up. This is the time of turbulence. There is some pollution going on in the atmosphere. So the temperature here will be high. So let's increase. It will do all that on its own. Okay, so now with all of this information, is it worth getting into cybersecurity? Is it worth learning cybersecurity now and getting into cybersecurity? Seeing that the best case scenario is this. Okay, it really depends. Okay, if this is the best case scenario, it really depends. But the question also becomes that if robots can do all of this in cybersecurity, they can do the same thing in GST also. Okay, they will not stop at information technology. 5 years, 10 years ago, all the big companies used to say, learn coding. We need engineers, learn coding, learn coding, learn coding. Today, the same people are saying, don't learn coding. Coding is defunct. In 1 year, AI will write all the code in the world. You don't have to learn coding. Okay, the reason it has picked coding as its first use case is because coding is end-to-end. Okay, everything happens digitally. But in everything else, in all the other professions, even GST, even cybersecurity, there is a human element to it. Okay, AI right now knows, or it can know everything on the internet, but everything on the internet is not what we know. We know something more than the internet. We may have a little bit of expertise. We may have creativity. We may have innovation. We can out-learn the internet. Okay, if we pay attention, if we are in the good top 10% of in our profession, we can outthink the internet and we can outthink AI today. Okay, that is my case. And AI will not stop. If AI is so great, it will not stop there. It will take everybody's job. It will not just be our job. It will not just be my job. It will not just be yours. It will take everybody's job. But what I will say is the top 10% and the bottom 10% of every profession will probably be safe. Okay, because the top 10% are making all the decisions. They are taking everything into their hands. They're having businesses, and they're executives, and they are the top experts in their profession. And they are making decisions and creating approvals. So they are mostly safe. The bottom 10% will be used for basic management. Okay, like I was talking about, you need to manage the robot, you need to do upkeep, you need to do maintenance. All of that you need to clear. If before feeding anything to the robot, you need to see if the data that is going inside the robot is clean. So they will do data cleaning. They will remove all personal information. All of those things is what the bottom 10% of people in any profession will do. Top 10 profession will take charge, and they will give approvals and educate and give the first step to AI for AI to do the work. So the middle 80% is where, in the best case scenario, that the jobs will kind of start to go down a little bit in the best case scenario. So if you want to learn anything today, if you want to start learning today, if you want to upgrade yourself, if you want to train, if you want to learn, if you want to start operating, I would say start using AI in your day-to-day work, as long as you're allowed to do that in your organization. Okay, first get the approvals from your CA or from your CEO or CISO, whoever it is in your company. Only then you can start implementing AI in your day-to-day life, because it will only help you right now. Okay, and even in the future, it can help you become the top 10% that will survive. Let's say the worst case scenario happens and all humans are out of jobs. It will help you. It will give you that edge because you started early. Okay, I've also started using AI. I've also implemented AI. Okay, the only thing that will stop all this is we don't get to the best case scenario. We come to the middle case scenario, or the worst case scenarios. As humans, we decide that we don't need robots. Okay, they can sell whatever they want to us, all the big companies. In the end, we have to buy. If humans decide we're not interested in all of these things, we will go back to emails, go back to just doing what we are doing now. We'll send speed posts instead of doing all of this. That is also possible, but it's not likely. What is more likely is that AI will be a part of our society. Okay, it will become a bigger and bigger part. So you have to keep upskilling and keep learning, and take AI with you. Instead of saying AI is separate, I am separate, you have to take AI with you, because it will only help you. Okay, it is meant to help you. So with that being said, I will give some basic. And one more thing is that in case you don't want to learn anything, if you don't want to learn cybersecurity, if you don't want to, if you just want to stay where you are, that is also still okay. Okay, the only thing is, I would say you get a consultant. You hire a consultant who can do all this work, who understands all of this, and they take responsibility for this area, and they can protect information or for you on your behalf. Okay, you give them some, you get into an agreement with them, and you give them the responsibility of taking over cybersecurity, and they take it over on your behalf. The only thing, okay, so now let's say you do that, and that is the scenario. Even in that case, I would say you learn some basics of information security, because just like how AI will help you in some way or the other, all of the information that I'm about to share with you will help you in some way or the other. Even if it is double checking an email before clicking send, it will help you in some way or the other. Okay, so let me give you some very basic information about cybersecurity, very basic pillars of information security. This is called the CIA triad. Okay, confidentiality, integrity, availability. Just like how in accounting there are the 3 golden rules: debit what comes in, credit what goes out, debit expenses, credit incomes. Just like that, even in cybersecurity, there are these 3 big pillars that have stood the test of time. First is confidentiality. Confidentiality means that only authorized people are given access to data. Meaning that, going back to my previous example, I was talking about the article and the team lead and the CA. Okay, only if you're authorized, you have access to that data. If you're not authorized, you are not given access to that data. The way to implement that is through access controls. Okay. First, we establish your digital identity. First, we give you an identity, your username and password. Then we decide where you can go with that identity. Okay. You have a Gmail account, I have a Gmail account, but you cannot log into my Gmail account. I have a separate identity, you have a separate identity. Okay. There is a confidentiality that's maintained. You will only access my Gmail account if you have my password. Otherwise, your account is separate, my account is separate. In bigger organizations, it's not just a simple Gmail account. There's different layers of responsibility, different job tasks that everybody does, and everybody has to be given access, like I was saying before, the minimum level of access required to do their job. Okay, that is confidentiality. This is what will prevent data leaks. This is what will encrypt data, and this is what will protect data in the long term because it's a preventive control. Okay, if you don't know my password, you cannot log into my system. You cannot do anything with my credentials. You cannot misuse my identity. Okay, that's what confidentiality is all about, is giving the right people the right level of access. Okay, examples are data encryption, access controls, and even physical controls. Okay, if you cannot see my laptop, we are virtually speaking, my laptop is with me. If you don't have access to my laptop, you cannot do anything with my laptop. So that is also a layer of confidentiality. Next is integrity. Okay, integrity means that data is accurate and pristine and prevented from unauthorized modification, meaning that just like how Newton had that second law of motion, that objects at rest will remain at rest until an external force is acted upon it. Same way, data has to remain as it is unless an authorized person makes some changes. Okay, so there are two layers here. One is the data has to be as it is when I left it. Okay, so let's say I'm working on some Excel file. I save the Excel file and I close my laptop. When I reopen my laptop, it should be as it is when I left it. That is integrity. Second thing is somebody else should not be able to modify my Excel file. Okay, those are the two aspects of integrity. First is data should be accurate, data should be pristine, and prevented from unauthorized access. Okay, the examples of integrity are hashing, digital signature. I think you all have used digital signature. Okay, what does digital signature imply? It implies that the document that whoever authority has signed has come from that authority. Okay, you can verify, you can use that authority's public signature, compare it with the signature that they have used, the private signature, and you can confirm that yes, it has come from this person itself. Okay, I think you know more about digital signatures than me. So that is an example of integrity. Next is availability. Availability means that systems are ready as and when you need it. Okay, so if I want to log into my Gmail account, it has to be available now. It cannot be available 5 minutes from now. It cannot be available 5 minutes before I log in. When I want it, it should be available. That's what availability means. Okay, and how do you promote availability? You promote that by having backups, by having redundancies, by having disaster recovery systems in place. All of this promotes availability. In case somebody accesses your data, so let's go back to, if I have to go back to confidentiality. In case your data is leaked, they say that it has been a loss of confidentiality. Okay. In case somebody modifies your data without your knowledge, it is a loss of integrity. And in case, let's say you go to google.com, it's not available, that means there is a loss of availability. Okay. And all the examples that I've given, they promote confidentiality, integrity, and availability. In case that is not satisfied, there is a loss of confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Okay. This is a very basic, fundamental concept that I think you can also see in your day-to-day life. Okay, even though you may not, most of you said you did not know anything about cybersecurity, you can probably relate this with your day-to-day life because this is the basic premise of information security. Okay, here are some common terminologies. I think you must have heard of all of them before. Okay, risk means anything that can go wrong. Risk is if you're in business, as long as you're alive, there is some risk. Okay, you can be at home sleeping, not doing anything. Still, there can be some earthquake that destroys your property. That just by being alive, just by having a business, just by doing anything in your life, you're undertaking risk. You can go out of your office. There are vehicles everywhere. Anything can happen. Okay? But you still live with the risk. Just because there is risk doesn't mean that we don't do anything with our life. You find a way to control the risk or you accept the risk. There are different risk mitigation techniques that I will come to later. Okay, but risk is there, risk exists, and we exist. So we have to exist with the risk. That is what the basic point of risk is. Okay. Next is a threat. Threat is a potential attack. It is not an actual attack, it is a potential attack. Okay, so for example, for India as a country, Pakistan and China are threats. They are not doing anything right now, but there is a potential that they could do something. Okay, so in cybersecurity world, hackers, earthquakes, malware, these are threats. It's not that we are under attack right now, but if we show a small weakness, if we do anything wrong, this can happen. Okay, the only thing about threat is that it is not in our control. We are in this Zoom meeting right now, you and me are talking. There could be some hacker somewhere in Russia that is trying to hack into this Zoom meeting. Okay, we don't know, we cannot control that, we don't even know that it exists. We just know that this is a threat factor. Okay, this is something that can happen, and this is what will result in a risk. Okay. Next is a vulnerability. Vulnerability is a weakness. So for example, in this Zoom meeting, if we share this Zoom link with hundreds of people, okay, we don't have a username and password with this Zoom link. There is a vulnerability. Okay. Any mistake, any weakness, there is a vulnerability. The good thing about vulnerability when you compare it with threat is that it can be controlled. Okay, you can fix weak coding, you can add passwords, you can change your passwords if your password is weak. You can install antivirus in your system and prevent and have a protective system installed. All of that is how you control vulnerabilities. Next is, we're talking about control so many times, control. I think you're already control experts because you're audit experts. But even then, I will give you an example of control. Control is, in cybersecurity, there are three kinds of controls. There are preventive, detective, and corrective. Okay, control is anything that prevents or detects and corrects a vulnerability. Okay, we know there is a weakness. Here is how we prevent a weakness. We know there is a weakness. This is how we identified it and we fixed it. Any activity that you undertake to prevent any vulnerability or detect and correct a vulnerability is a control. So for example, installing antivirus, fixing the weak code, implementing access controls, setting minimum password requirements. You may have seen in a lot of bank websites and income tax websites, before you log in, it'll say your password has to be 8 characters, 2 uppercase, 2 lowercase. All of those are controls, real life controls that you may have seen in your day-to-day life. Okay, so let's do a quick recap. Let's see in the chat if you can answer the first question. So what are the 3 pillars of the CIA triad? Anybody wants to unmute and respond, or if you want to respond in the chat. What are the 3 pillars of cybersecurity in the CIA triad? Is it compliance, integrity, assurance, confidentiality, information assets, confidentiality, integrity, availability, or control, inherence, and avoidance? Okay, there are 3 responses. Let's see. Some have said C, some have said D. Okay, the correct answer is C. Okay. Confidentiality, integrity, availability. Okay, next. What is a weakness? Okay. What is the weakness that can be controlled? Sorry. So what is the weakness that can be controlled? Is it A, risk? Is it B, vulnerability? Is it C, control? Or is it D, threat? Who wants to answer? If you want to answer and unmute yourself and answer, you can, or in the chat also is okay. Okay, D, 2 people have said D, some people have said C. The correct answer is vulnerability. Okay, vulnerability is a weakness that can be controlled. It is not threat. That is something that we cannot control. Like I said, a hacker is a threat because we cannot control everybody in the world. Somebody might be sitting in Russia, like I said, and they might be trying to hack into the server. Somebody in China might be copying all the data that we have from the Zoom in China, Zoom database, the data server in China. They might be copying all the data. We cannot control that. They are out of our control. We can only do what we can do at our level. Okay, that is a threat. Okay. A weakness that cannot be controlled, that can be controlled, is a vulnerability. Risk is anything that can go wrong, and control is everything that we put in place to control vulnerabilities. Okay, next. Last question. What is the primary goal of cybersecurity? A, increase output and efficiency. B, protect people, processes, assets, and technologies. C, ensure financial security, data protection, and legal compliance. Or D, all of the above. Who wants to give an answer? D, this is CPT answer, everybody wants to give D, all of the above. But D is not the correct answer. The primary goal of cybersecurity is B. Okay. The primary goal of cybersecurity is to protect people, processes, assets, and technologies. Okay. So I have a few more slides, but we are out of time. Maybe I'll cover them next week or the week after that. I'll quickly give you some common mistakes that I see in CA offices and how you can control them. I'll only take 5-10 minutes. Okay. So first thing is reusing passwords. I think you've got the fundamental idea of why you should not be reusing passwords. Okay. Clicking unknown links. If you get a phishing email from a Nigerian prince that they will give you $5 million, don't click it. It's not real. Okay. Of all the people in the world, Nigerian princess is not coming in and trying to be your friend. Be careful. We don't know. It could be true, but check twice. And if you're in a business environment, I would say don't click it. If you want to use your personal account, that is your risk that you undertake. But in a business environment, you should not be clicking any of these links. You should not be downloading any software that you're not authorized to download. Okay, including torrents, including songs, including any latest song that you want to download, latest movie. All of that is out of, if you do that, it's only bad for you, because if you have cybersecurity in place, you will be caught. Okay. Next is share credentials. Is a lot of times we see that the same people are using, or multiple people are using the same account. So this is, it could be because of a business need, but if it is, I would suggest that you document it. You document why it is being used, why you share the accounts, who has access to all these accounts, and you rotate the passwords. Okay, try to avoid sharing accounts as much as possible. But if you have to use it, if there is no other choice, then you try to you have to document why you have this credential, why you use this, and how you can avoid sharing these accounts, and how you can also keep changing the passwords, because it could be that 6 months ago somebody had access, they have left the company. You keep changing the passwords so that the credentials are safe. Okay, next is not having backups. Okay, the best way to have backups is the 3-to-1 method. 3-to-1 means you have 3 backups in total on 2 media and 1 is offsite. Media means different levels of backup. So for example, your external hard disk is 1 backup. Keeping a backup on your laptop is 1 backup. Online, on keeping a backup on the cloud, is another backup. These are media, okay, backup media. So the total is 3 backups in 2 different media and 1 offsite. So this may not be relevant to you if you're an article or if you're a journal. You can also implement this to your own backups, to your own data, but this is more for companies, so they can keep their backup safe and always have a way to recover from any disaster. Next, data sharing with external parties. So as a company, you interact with so many people, you share your data with so many people. But first, you have to perform a risk assessment and find out if this person should be given this level of access first, and what level of access they should have, what kind of data they will be exposed to, because this is all data that we own. It is our company's data, and we are sharing that with an external parties, with an external party, and we have to decide where they can go, what physical sites they can access. We have to take all of this into account. That comes under in a risk assessment, and then have formal data sharing agreements in place. So we have a contractual obligation with the vendor that they will do as they have promised. Okay. And next is the notion of we are too small to be targeted. Like I said, a threat is anywhere. Anybody can be a threat. Anybody can be targeted. Okay. Next is personal account use. Using your personal account in a business environment should be off limits. Okay. Your personal account is for your personal use. Your business, when you come to a business, when you come to work, when you're doing business tasks, you should only use your business account. No personal account use. No personal account use for doing corporate tasks. Next is a common thing that I see everywhere in all CA offices, keeping workstations unlocked when you walk away. So when you get a phone call or something, you just leave your laptop as it is and you walk away. This is not a good practice, because there is no accountability. Like I was saying, you did all the protections, you have all the protections in place. You got a cybersecurity consultant, they put all the protections in place, firewall, antivirus, everything is in place. But if you give your username and password to your laptop, and as soon as you get a phone call, you walk away, you leave your laptop exposed. Okay. There is no accountability. In case something goes wrong from your laptop, somebody makes a mistake, it'll come to you, because it goes from your credentials. You have unlocked your laptop, you gave your credentials, you had Gmail open, somebody else came in and used your Gmail account. Okay. You become accountable for that. So whenever you walk away from your laptop, whenever you walk away, even in your even at your house, when you walk away, just like how you lock your phone after you use, you have to lock your laptop when you walk away. You can come back, you can set up biometrics, you can set up PIN. All the latest laptops have all the big technologies. Even if you have Windows 10, you can set up a PIN code login. You give 4 digits, you log in. Okay. The only thing is you keep those 4 digits safe. Okay. It's like a PIN card, like your ATM PIN card. You don't share with anybody. You don't share your laptop PIN code with anybody. Okay. So if you're VNV, Venu and Vinay and I are embarking in a new venture of cybersecurity under the brand name Cyber Commandos. So if you're interested in cybersecurity, if you're interested in learning cybersecurity more, if you want to go deeper into cybersecurity, or if you want to become a cyber commando yourself, you can send me an email, ansar@vnv.ca. You can send an email to venu@vnv.ca. We also have our website. If you want to explore, you can explore cybercommandos.netlify.app, and you can give your interest there. So that's all from me. I'll continue some other time. I will hand it back to Venu and team.
Thank you, Ansar. And it's great to have insights about the cyber security. And I'm sure everyone are enriched with your knowledge sharing. I would suggest everyone start the journey of the cyber security. Your organization get a basic health check done. Reach out and say what is required to get it done. If you are doing services to different companies, you can tell the corporate saying that, hey, why don't you get one cyber security health check done? Basically, it would look at what are the vulnerabilities which are there in the organization. And one of the question which Ansar said, what is that something you can control, is you can only look at these vulnerabilities and you can start working on that. You can't control a hacker who is there outside. Right? You cannot control a threat or a risk that exists. You have to build your controls against them. And that's what our cybersecurity team does. Detailed review of where all the organization has to expand. In the process, we will suggest some of the tools that you may wish to have to improve on securities. Some may be on the process change, could be a training to the team, bringing awareness of their cybersecurity readiness. We will be assisting in any of this. And feel free to reach to us, and we will be sharing the today's copy of the presentation. Yeah. With this, we have come to end of today's presentation, and we will catch you all on the 100th session in the next month. Thank you for joining the session today.